Progressives are soft on crime because of three things. First, in the progressive worldview, there is no God, there is no afterlife. Number two, the left explains everything through power imbalances. And number three, there is no such thing as morality. Who are you to say? So back in the day, there was a God. He said what is right and wrong, moral and immoral. We legislated accordingly. And laws were used as a tool of justice to protect the weak and vulnerable, right? Today, there is no God. Therefore, there's no morality. Who are you to say what's right and wrong? But progressives still need to make sense of things. So they do that through the Marxist framework of everything about power, and everything is a power imbalance. And laws, therefore, are not an expression of God's law or morality. Law is an expression of power. Rich people make laws to oppress poor people. White people made laws to oppress black people. Capitalists make laws to oppress the workers, right? It's always oppress and oppressors, or I should say oppress and oppressors, right? So the criminals, in this progressive worldview, the criminals are the victims. And I know that alone doesn't make sense. What do you mean the criminals are the victims? How could that possibly be? In their worldview, that's how they think about it. Criminals are the victims. Victims of what? Well, victims of the oppressive rich, victims of the oppressive white capitalists, etc., right? Criminals are the victims in this progressive worldview. And that we have to understand that in order for all of what's happening now to make sense. Just an example of soft on crime recently were the Judge Jackson hearings, Supreme Court Justice Jackson. And the whole accusation was she's soft on sentencing pedophiles. That's not surprising. She's a progressive. Progressives think that criminals are the victims. Progressives even think that pedophiles are the real victims here. This is why criminals are let out of jail all the time. This is why progressives talk about getting rid of jails. Getting rid of, because people in them are the victims. So we gotta get the victims out. That's how they think. Okay, let's go through each of those a little slower. Okay? First one, there is no God. There is no God, there is no afterlife. I heard some Indian guru the other day, I think he was on Rogan's show, talk about how the problem with the world today is that no one believes in heaven. And he said years ago, he would ask someone about heaven, is there a heaven? And they'd say, yes, of course, it exists. And then, but today he asks people if heaven exists, and they just laugh at him. And to that I say, the real problem is people don't believe in hell. I think most people think they're going to heaven just because they're nice. I mean, the real problem is people don't believe in hell. But either way, people don't believe in much of an afterlife. Hell is a tiny little bit of a disincentive to do immoral things, don't you think? Yes, you may get money from the bank. You may go rob the bank and steal some money, but you're going to rot in eternal torment. Gnashing of teeth for all of eternity. So a little bit of money, gnashing of teeth of eternity, that right? Do you know how long eternity is? That's a pretty big deterrent for a lot of people, but alas, it's now off the table. That's all just silly make-believe stuff. Okay? There's no God, no afterlife. That's one part of it. Second thing, to a Marxist, it's all about power. If a person is in jail, right? So if you're a Marxist, or if you're a progressive Marxist, and you look at someone who's in jail, doesn't matter who, why, what, if you look at someone who's in jail, it's not because they broke the law. They're in jail because they're marginalized. They're marginalized. Isn't that awful? They're black. They're poor. They had a tough life. Whatever else makes them a victim of the system. That's what they're. They're a victim of the system. And it's just like a school to prison pipeline, like in Mario, they just walked by this pipe and then bloop, 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 and they just got sucked into prison. And they had nothing to do with it. Just bad luck. Or worse. So, if you're marginalized and oppressed, and if you're a crusader defending the marginalized and oppressed, then the progressives think they have to flip around everything and make the oppressed no longer marginalized or oppressed anymore. So they flip everything upside down. And you see this everywhere. Everything's turned upside down, right? Normal things are being turned queer, and immoral things are being normalized. Right? Let me give you an example of the first one. You hear a lot about queering spaces these days, right? We got to queer the library. Like literally, the National Librarians Association had an event, like a conference the other day, and it was entitled "Queering the Library." Right? We got to queer the classroom. Right? It's all about taking normal things, a library, and making them queer. Right? So if that's true, and it is, they're doing that, then the inverse also is true. So if they're taking normal things and making them queer, they're also taking queer things or taboo or immoral things, illegal things, and making them normal. You with me? So while you have drag queen story hour, right? You with me? So we got to take a normal thing, make it queer, and then we got to take a queer thing and make it normal, hence drag queen story hour. Now this is true with sexual perversions, but it's also true with crime, right? Drug use is a great example. The Biden administration just recently giving out free crack pipes. Why? Oh, we gotta normalize this behavior, right? Theodore Dalrymple, he's one of my favorite writers of all time. He is a prison psychologist in England. And he tells all these stories of talking to prisoners, but one in particular, he's asking a guy why he's in prison. And the guy said, just normal burglaries. So there's only 3 words in that response, and 2 of them are interesting. Normal? Normal burglaries, And then the just breaking into people's houses and stealing stuff. That's all. Just another day at the office. And the left looks at this and says, this man is a victim of capitalism. He's a victim of oppression. He's a victim of poverty. He's a victim of the system. What would cause him to do that? What a unfortunate white supremacist system we have that would result in this person needing to break into someone's house and take things. What a shame. He's the real victim in this. We're like, what? No, the person whose stuff got stolen is the real victim. And they'll do another rationalization too. The left will say, well, listen, who are you to say what's a crime? Capitalism is criminal too. Slave owning is criminal, and this country's built on slavery. Imperialism is criminal. War is criminal. All these bad things we've all benefited from in America, so everyone's guilty. And if everyone's guilty, then everyone is innocent. And who are you, therefore, to say that burglary is bad? You're just picking and choosing, and that's unjust of you. Which brings us to the third point. Are you with me so far? So first is there is no God, there is no afterlife. Second, everything is about a power imbalance, and everything needs to be inverted. So anything that's bad, immoral, wrong needs to be normalized and made good. Just another burglary. And the third thing is there is no morality. Right? So you've heard the expression before, you can't legislate morality. Right? Or you shouldn't legislate morality. That's ridiculous. That's all law is. The law is legislating morality. Thou shalt not steal. That is a moral code from God. Thou shalt not steal. That's moral. But people steal still. So what do? Well, we legislate it. We legislate you can't do it. And then the state punishes you for committing that crime. All laws are legislative morality. But to the progressive Marxist, there is no morality. Right? Everything's relative. So who are you to say what's good, bad, whatever? So because there's no morality, laws are not an expression of reality. What are the chances of that? Is someone breaking in? Are we being burglarized right now? Unbelievable. Sick the dogs on the criminals breaking into the house. Where was I? When they look at, all laws, there's no morality, right? So all law then is not an expression of morality. It's not legislative morality. All law is an expression of power. Rich people against poor, capitalists against worker, white against black, right? Law is an expression of power. And all power imbalances need to be flipped around. Criminals, therefore, are the victims who need to be set free. Hey, Slater Crusaders, thanks for watching that full clip right there. If you want to watch the full special, you can download the First TV app, where we truly, deeply understand what is behind this idea, this progressive idea of crime, and why progressives are soft on crime. Please download the First app. You can watch the whole thing for free.